Good day, grade 12 learners. Welcome to today's business studies lesson. My name is Tsidiso Tlhaka. We'll be looking into a topic we call quality of performance, and the focus will be your total quality management under that. And then we will be looking into the application questions on the total quality management. So the first question or assessment we have is on identifying the statements from this. Now, identify the total quality management elements applied by Sky Logistics in each statement below. The first one, alphabet A, regular market research is conducted to determine the needs of consumers. That is the first part. Then, option B, sufficient capital and equipment are available to render quality services. Then option C, employees are regularly trained to use the latest technology. With these three now statements, you are supposed to identify the total quality management element. And what is key is to always keep into attention on your keywords. When they are talking about market research, you should be asking yourself to say, which element focuses on market research? And what is market research? With market research, it has to do with now checking if customers would be interested in whatever product you want to bring into the market. And this would determine the needs of customers and which element would focus on that. Because remember, we have 5 elements, and here you have option A, B, and C, meaning you have to choose 3 elements out of the 5. And then another statement focuses now on saying sufficient capital and equipment are available to render quality services. And then employees are regularly trained to use the latest technology. Even with that, you should be able to identify the keywords there. Now, let us focus on trying to address the solution now, to say what is the solution for these 3 options and which elements are directly being implemented by Sky Logistics. So looking into regular market research, market talks about customers. This is a process of checking or looking for customers or checking if customers are satisfied, if they are already being supporting the business. So the business would conduct that to determine their needs. So which elements out of the 5 focuses on making sure that customers are forever satisfied? So the element becomes now total client satisfaction. So this is the element, total client satisfaction. This element talks about making sure that the business would do regular market research or do customer service so that they check if customers are happy. So that is why we are saying the correct answer here is total client satisfaction. You will not know if the client is satisfied unless you ask and you know what they actually need to be satisfied. Hence, the element addresses that. So sufficient capital and equipment are available to render quality services. So this is to say the business has sufficient, meaning the business has enough capital, meaning money, to render services to clients. So which element talks about the business, especially a large business, having more than the small business? So that element becomes adequate. Adequate financing and capacity. That is the element, because this element talks about the idea that large businesses have the financial resource to test everything before they can implement. But then when you look into now, option C, this says employees are regularly trained to use the latest technology. So this is what now? We are talking about improvement of the worker's skills. So the element that is implicated there becomes continuous. Continuous skills development. That is the element there. So those are the three statements, and this is how you would be expected to answer them so that you get correct. Now read the scenario below and answer questions that follow. You have Earth Leather Limited. Earth Leather Limited is a large business that specializes in the manufacturing of quality leather bags. They often upgrade their production processes to stay ahead of their competitors. Customers are always requested to provide feedback about their products. Now, identify, that is what the first question is saying, identify 2 total quality management elements applied by Earth Leather Limited. Motivate your answer by quoting from the scenario above. Then number 2, evaluate the impact of one of the TQM element identified in question 1. So one of the TQM elements has to be evaluated over there. Now, let's go back. Remember, the question is to identify the 2 TQM elements and motivate your answer by quoting from the scenario. So when you are looking into the scenario, the first part tells you what the business is specializing in, which is the manufacturing of quality leather bags. But the other sentence now says they often upgrade their production process to stay ahead of their competitors. That is one. So when they are talking about upgrading, which element talks about upgrading? Which element talks about improving the systems in the business? There's only one TQM element, which is now continuous improvement to processes and systems. How do you motivate? You'd have to quote directly from the scenario so that you obtain all your marks. So the quotation would be, they often upgrade their production process to stay ahead of their competitors. That is how you quote there so that you get the correct response. Then the second part now was, which other element is there? Customers are always requested to provide feedback about their. So this element goes back to total client satisfaction. Total client satisfaction. Now, that is your total client satisfaction. That is your continuous improvement to processes and systems. Those are the 2 TQM elements. How do you motivate there? You say customers are requested to provide feedback about their product. Now, the common error. Learners fail to identify the correct TQM element from the scenario or statement. So this is to say, learn your keywords and be able to then identify the correct TQM element. Just know that continuous improvement would talk about upgrading, and total client satisfaction would largely talk about making sure that the client is satisfied, and with your adequate financing, we talk about the business having enough capital and resources. And then remember again that with your monitoring and evaluation, it would focus largely on talking about inspections and making sure that the product is less or is having less of defects. So with that being said, let us take a short break, then we'll continue with the other questions when we come back.